This is a special breakfast. I am so glad that you stopped by today. I am sharing some fantastic breakfast recipes. We have the holidays coming up and it's winter, and so I tend to make breakfast more often at home. I've got some recipes that are great for company, that are wonderful for the weekend, or if you just need something easy during the weekday. I'm a big fan of all meals of the day, but breakfast is my number one. Like if I don't have breakfast, then I'm kind of turned into a bear. So I have to have my breakfast, and we're making a few today that are some of my favorite. So if we haven't met before, welcome. My name is Ange, and this is the Menu Me Kitchen. All right, so first up is Hashbrown breakfast casserole. I love this breakfast casserole because it's so easy and it's just perfect for like the holiday season when you want to make meals ahead of time or if you have company over. So we're going to start with a large skillet here. I'm going to add some breakfast turkey sausage, but you can do bacon or ham or even pork sausage. I'm just going to cook this and break it into crumbles until it's no longer pink, and then I'm going to remove any excess grease from the pan. And by the way, if you haven't seen this tip before, I like to use paper towels to sop up the excess grease, and then I just grab some tongs and pull it out. I just feel like it's so much easier and safer than trying to dump the grease into a cup, and then you're like, what do I do with this extra grease? I gotta wait for it to cool off. So the paper towel method is so much easier. So to my pan here, I added a small red and green pepper diced, and then a 1/4 cup of red onion. And I like to saute the veggies before I add them to the casserole. I just feel like it makes the flavor so much better, and then you don't get kind of that raw onion flavor. And then I have a bowl here. I'm going to add in about 8 large eggs, and then I'll also add in 1 1/3 cups of milk. You can do 1% or 2%. And then I have a 1/2 teaspoon of Italian seasoning. We've got 1 teaspoon of kosher salt, and then I'm going to do 1 teaspoon of black pepper. You can also do like a 1/4 teaspoon or 1/2 teaspoon of black pepper if that's too spicy for you, but we like a lot of pepper in our family. So I give this a whisk until the eggs are nice and fluffy. And then we've got our casserole dish here. I have a 9 by 13 inch pan. I'm going to spray with nonstick cooking spray. And you definitely want to spray this generously so that the eggs don't stick to the pan. So I've got a 32-ounce package of shredded frozen hash browns, but I'm only going to use about 20 ounces. Now, if you're cooking this, if you're putting this together the night before, you don't have to wait for the hash browns to thaw. But if you're going to be making it the same day, let the hash browns thaw and then put the casserole together. So I threw in our sausage, peppers, and onions, and then I've got some different cheese here. I've got some sharp cheddar cheese, about 1 cup, and then I did a 1/2 cup of Gruyere cheese. I really like the flavor of Gruyere. It's just creamy and it just added another level of flavor. So you just want to stir all this together and then just use the back of your spoon to kind of spread it out evenly, and then we'll top it off with our egg mixture. And then I like to use the back of my spoon to just make sure that the ingredients have been kind of pressed down into the pan, and then I give it a little shake to make sure that the egg mixture is nice and even. I like to top this with another 1/2 cup of shredded cheddar cheese, and then I'm going to cover this with foil and pop it in the fridge because I'm not going to cook this until tomorrow morning. It is early, the sun is peeked through my windows, my dog is up with me, everybody else is sleeping, the casserole is done. I loved that I got to just get up this morning and pop that in the oven, and it just smells wonderful. I am so hungry and I cannot wait for them to get up, so I'm gonna have myself a small slice and then I'll eat breakfast with them when they get up. Okay, doesn't this look so delicious? A little sausage and the peppers. Oh, that is so good. This is a wonderful casserole to make during the holiday season. I love making this for Christmas morning. That way I can just get up and we can focus on spending time together as a family, and breakfast is pretty much already prepped and ready to go. You can change it up, put bacon, ham, or you don't even have to use meat at all. All right, next up we have caramel apple French toast bake. This is such a special breakfast. It's just absolutely delicious. It feels like fall and Christmas. So I'm gonna actually have the recipe on this video, but you can find the full recipe on my website. since we just have a small family of 3, I didn't want to do a huge pan. So I have a Honeycrisp apple here. As you can see, I'm just cutting this around the core, and then I'm just going to cut the apples into basically like little 1/2-inch pieces. I basically try to make sure that the apples and the bread cubes are roughly the same size. Plus I want to make sure that the apples cook enough. So to my pan here, I'm going to add in about 1 tablespoon of butter, and I'm just going to melt that. And then we'll add in our apples. I'll saute the apples until they're just softened. They're going to cook a little bit more in the oven, but I like to caramelize these a little bit in the pan before we add them to the rest of the ingredients. And while that happens, I'm going to get our bread ready. So on the recipe on my website, this calls for 10 slices of like Italian bread. You can really use any kind of your favorite bread that you like. I love this thick Italian bread, and this is a couple of days old, so it's not super soft. Basically, I'm just going to cut this into, again, like 1/2-inch size cubes so that they're about the same size as the apples. All right, so now that our bread is all prepped, we're going to get back to those apples. I'm going to add a 1/2 tablespoon of brown sugar, and then I'm just going to eyeball the cinnamon. The recipe on the website calls for 1/2 teaspoon, so I just basically put in what I thought was about a 1/4 teaspoon or so, and then basically you just want to cook it until the sugar melts. And now we're going to move on to our egg mixture. I'm going to crack 4 large eggs. I'm also going to add in about 2/3 cup of milk. You can do 1% or 2%, like I said, or you can even use your favorite non-dairy milk. And then we'll also add in about 1/2 teaspoon of ground cinnamon and just a little sprinkling of nutmeg. We're going to also add in a little bit of salt and 2 tablespoons of pure maple syrup. And then I'll just add a splash of vanilla extract, about a 1/2 teaspoon. So I'll give this a whisk until it's all combined. And then we're going to pull this casserole together. So I've got about a 1.5 quart baking dish here. I'm going to spray generously with nonstick cooking spray, and then we'll add all of those bread cubes. And then to the top of that, I'm going to do something really special here. I'm actually going to add in cream cheese. I saw this on another website, and it makes it so decadent and delicious. Basically, I'm just going to top it with little bits of cream cheese. You can do as little or as much as you like, but you basically just want to make sure that each bite has a little bit of cream cheese. It's just so, so good. Trust me on this. Okay, so next we have our cooled apples. I'm just going to basically scatter this over the top of the cream cheese and the bread. You just want to make sure that it's as even as possible. And then finally, we'll just pour over all of our egg mixture, making sure to coat each and every bread cube. So just like the breakfast casserole, you can make this the same day, or you can put it in the fridge overnight and then make it the next morning. And that's what I'm going to do. Okay, look at that. I'm so excited. Guys, I don't think I need syrup. This is a special breakfast. That cream cheese. What I love about this French toast bake is it's not soggy. It's perfect. It's like soft, but you get the crispy bits on the top, and the inside is tender like French toast. Oh man. Oh, and I just wanted to say real quick, if you have not subscribed to my YouTube channel, I would love for you to be part of my YouTube family so that we can continue to make great recipes together. Good morning. It's looking like it's going to be a beautiful day today, or at least right now. It's clear, it's not raining, and the colors outside are so perfectly fall. So we actually lived in a smaller manufactured home on this property for quite a few years. We had our daughter and she was about 4 years old. I remember specifically when we lived in our manufactured home, my kitchen window actually looked out to the driveway and the gravel road. And I always thought, someday I would love to have my window look out at the vineyard view. Like, that would just be awesome. My husband and I were driving and I was just feeling like, okay, it's probably not going to be possible for us to ever build, and that's okay. It's more important to me that we are happy and our marriage is healthy. And I had been kind of praying about it and just praying that God would open the door if we're supposed to, and if we're not, then just to help me to be content and at peace about it. Well, anyway, long story long, I could not even tell you the peace that I had in my gut over moving forward and building our dream home. It was such a God moment for us, and it was the right timing. So when I look out at this window now, every day, every morning I come and I stand here and I look out. It doesn't matter if it's raining or it's sunny or it's a beautiful fall day like this. I look out there and I feel so blessed. If you're in a season of life right now where you're waiting for something to happen, or you've been praying for something to come to fruition, just know that God wants to meet the desires of your heart, and He has the best timing for that. And so keep being prayerful and ask God to give you content while you're waiting. So now that I've given the Sermon on the Mount, we're gonna be making some breakfast. I'm doing a super easy breakfast. This is great for weekends, weekdays. Maybe you're gonna have company over and you wanna have something easy but still hearty and filling. This is gonna be a fun one, and I'm excited to show you. This is such an easy, fast recipe. Very simple ingredients. I've got some eggs over here. I'm going to do about 7 eggs, and then you can really get creative with the things that you add into your sheet pan eggs. I'm going to do ham. Our family likes ham, and I also feel like for leftovers, the texture is just, I don't mind this reheated. Bacon reheated, not so much. So I'm going to do ham, and that's about a half a cup, maybe just a little bit more. And then I also have about 3/4 cup of chopped spinach. If you don't like spinach or you don't want to use it, just leave it out. And then I've got some cheese and just a little bit of milk, and then we'll do salt and pepper. So I'm gonna get my eggs, the milk, and the salt and pepper in my bowl here. We'll whisk that up, and then we'll get that on the sheet pan and then finish off with the rest of our filling. And just a reminder, links to all of these recipes can be found in the descriptions below. So we're basically going to whisk these just under the frothing stage. You definitely don't want this to be super frothy, so I'm just going to mix it up a little bit more with my whisk here, and then we'll add this to our sheet pan. Okay, you can tell that I have a well-seasoned sheet pan here. So for this recipe, for the 7 eggs, I'm going to do it in the 12 by 9 inch pan. I'm going to spray this generously with nonstick cooking spray, like a lot. All right, so now I'm gonna add my eggs to the sheet pan. We're just gonna pour it all on there. And first I'm gonna add my spinach, because I want the spinach to be underneath the ham and the cheese so it has time to like wilt and cook. So we're just gonna sprinkle the spinach right over the top of the eggs. Okay, so then we'll add our ham. We're just gonna scatter the ham over the top, just as evenly as you can. Natural choice smoked deli ham. I love this. It's kind of thin. It's not real fatty, so I like this ham. Okay, and then finally our cheese. I'll just sprinkle this right over the top. Okay, look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Okay, we're gonna get this in the oven at 350, and I'm gonna cook it about 15 minutes or so, just until the eggs are set. look how cute these sandwiches are. So fun. That is so yummy. And what a fun thing to do for breakfast that's fast and easy. And you could put these little egg squares on anything like toast, English muffins. You could break it up and throw it in a burrito. My daughter would totally do mustard. Are you a mustard and eggs kind of person? Mustard. Ooh. You hear the feet? Look at it. All right, so lemon blueberry breakfast cake is probably one of my favorite breakfasts to have, and I love making this. I don't know why, like on a Sunday morning, it's just so perfect with a side of scrambled eggs. So we want to start first with our blueberries. You can use fresh or frozen. I've got a 1.5 cups here in a bowl, and I'm going to add a 1/4 cup of flour and stir that. And this will just help the blueberries to not sink to the bottom of the cake when you put everything together. So the other thing I love about this recipe is all the rest of the ingredients will happen in this one single bowl, so I don't have to dirty too many dishes for this recipe. I just added a 1/4 cup of softened butter, and then I'm also going to add a 1/4 cup of unsweetened applesauce. I like to use these little mini cups here. If I buy the big container, usually I can't get it through quick enough before it goes bad. And then I'll also add 3/4 cup of granulated sugar, and plus I'll set aside 1 tablespoon for later. And then I'm going to zest an entire lemon. I'm not going to use the juice. And then I like to use my hand mixer to mix everything together. I'll also add in 1 egg, and then I'll do 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. We'll give that another stir until it's all combined. And then I just use my fine mesh strainer to sift in the dry ingredients. I've got a couple of cups of all-purpose flour. I also have 2 teaspoons of baking powder. And then I'm going to add the kosher salt once I've sifted in the dry ingredients. So next I'm going to add in a 1/2 cup of buttermilk. On my website I have a buttermilk substitute, so if you don't have buttermilk on hand, there's that for you. So we'll basically just stir the ingredients until it just comes together, and then I'll add in my frozen blueberries, leaving behind that excess flour. You don't want to add in the flour that you used for the blueberries. And then basically we just stir this really gently until you feel like the blueberries are well incorporated into the batter. So I'm using a 1.5 quart baking dish here. I've sprayed with nonstick cooking spray, and then we'll add our batter. This is really thick, so you're going to feel like it's not spreading out well, but I promise you it will spread out and cook in the oven just fine. So just make sure that you even it out as best as possible, and then top it with that 1 tablespoon of sugar that we set aside earlier. So while our breakfast cake bakes in the oven, I'm going to make a simple lemon glaze. I've got a 1/2 cup of confectioner sugar, 1 tablespoon of milk, and the juice of 1/2 a lemon. I'm going to stir it together until it's nice and thin, and then when the cake comes out of the oven, I drizzle it right away while it's still warm. Okay, I've got breakfast back here for my family already. This has such a bright lemony flavor. Oh my gosh. Every time I make this, I'm like, why don't I make this more often? It's super moist from the applesauce and the blueberries. I gotta get a little protein from my eggs. A perfect Sunday morning breakfast. And this would also be another great breakfast to make if you had company over, because it's so easy to throw together, and then you can just whip up some eggs or even just do some oven bacon on the side. Serve it with some coffee. You know what? I totally forgot my tea. So good. Well, I enjoyed cooking with you guys today, and as always, I hope that you feel inspired to try something new, and we will see you next time.